We are going to work an entire ACT test. The test in question will be preparing for the ACT test, 2017-2018, put out by the actual ACT folks. I will put a link to this test in the show notes. If for some reason that link should become defunct, just let me know and I'll send you a copy. Now, I think the best way for you to use this is to do the entire test and then come back and watch the videos and see how your answers compare to mine. If you're going to work along with me, then I would recommend that you, as soon as you start to see how a problem is going to be done, pause the video, complete the problem on your own, and then come back and see that we match up. Also, that is not to say that the way I'm going to do it is the only way a problem could be done. Certainly not. There are many tips and tricks that you can learn about math. I'm not interested in that. What I'm interested in is discussing the math that you're expected to know to take the ACT. To get your highest score, you're going to have to know the math. And that's what this will be about. We'll be discussing the math behind all of these problems. If you have any questions, you know how to reach me. All right, well, let's get started. The blood types of 150 people were determined for a study as shown in the figure below. If one person from this study is randomly selected, what is the probability that this person has either type A or type AB blood? Well, probabilities are the number of ways a specific event can happen divided by the number of ways all the events can happen. In this particular case, all the events that can happen are everybody. We have 150 people. Now I'm going to take that 150 and divide it into the specific event we're looking for. In this case, it's if you have either type A or type AB blood. Well, if you have type A, that is 67. And 6 people with type AB, 67 and 6 is 73. 73 out of 150. Answer D. Okie dokie. 2. The monthly fees for single rooms at 5 colleges are $370, $310, $380, $340, and $310 respectively. What is the mean of these monthly fees? To calculate the mean, you have to add up all the values in your data and divide by the number of values you just added. In this case, we have 5 values. We're going to add those up and divide by 5. So let's see, 310 and 310 is 620. 620 and 380 is 1,000. Ignore that noise. 370 and 340 is 7,010. So 1,710. I want to divide that by 5. 5 goes into 17 3 times with a remainder of 2. 5 goes into 21 4 times with a remainder of 1, 2, 342. And there we go. All right, let's see. Yes, this one here. On a particular road map, 1/2 inch represents 18 miles. About how many miles apart are 2 towns that are 2.5 inches apart on this map? Well, you could correctly reason that there are 5 1/2 inches in 2.5 inches. I can have 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, that's 1 inch. Another 1/2 inch, another 1/2 inch, that's 2 inch, another 1/2 inch. That's 5 1/2 inches. If each 1/2 inch represents 18 miles, 5 times 18 is 90. There's my answer. A more formal way to do this would be to set up a ratio. You could say that 1/2 is to 18 as 2.5, which would be 5 halves, is to, we don't know, x. All right. So to solve this, we will cross multiply. So that means 1/2 x equals, well, 18 times 5 halves. We'll just do it that way. Halves. Multiply everything by 2. So that means this just becomes x. and this just becomes 5. 18 times 5 is 90. You could, of course, also do that on the calculator. I'm a big fan of mental math, so and working with fractions is an important skill. So there you go. All right. Given CD cubed, F equals CD cubed, F equals 415, D equals 10, what is C? Well, let's sort it out. F equals CD cubed. And we're told that F is 450. That means 450 equals C. D is 10 cubed. 10 cubed is 1,000. So 450 equals 1,000 C. That means C equals 450. 450 equals 1,000 C. So C equals 450 divided by 1,000. And that just means I'll move the decimal place 3 spaces from there to there. 0.45. F. I strongly encourage you to memorize your cubes up through 10 and your squares at least up through 16, just so you know them without thinking about them. You know right away 10 cubed is 1,000. You know right away 8 cubed is 512. You know that the cube root of 216 is 6. 7 cubed is 343. So when those numbers show up, you don't have to think, oh, no. If they're using the number 343, it's because it's 7 cubed, almost certainly. So that just saves you a lot of time. So memorize your cubes and your squares. All right, 5. If f of x equals 3x plus 7 quantity squared, then f of 1 equals what? Well, I'm sure I just don't know. But let's sort it out. F of 1 means I'm going to put 1 in for x everywhere. So f of 1 will equal 3 times 1 plus 7 squared. All right, well, 3 plus 1 is 3, plus 7 is 10. This is 10 squared, which is 100. Answer E. There you go. Jorge's current hourly wage for working at Denti Smiles is $12. Jorge was told that at the beginning of the next month, his new hourly wage will be an increase of 6% of his current hourly wage. What will be Jorge's new hourly wage? Well, I need to go 6% more. So let's just find out what 6% of 12 is. So 12 times 6%. Remember, when you're working with percents, always work with them in the form of a decimal. So 6% is 0.06. 6 times 12 is 72. But I need to move the decimal place 2 spaces. It's 0.72, in our case, 72 cents. Add the original 12. His new hourly wage should be $12.72. H. All right. The first term is 1 in a geometric sequence. 1 minus 3, 9, minus 27. What is the 7th term of the geometric sequence? Oh, any? Well, we could, just start working this out, but there's got to be an easier way. Indeed, there is. First, by just noting what's going on here, a geometric sequence means that each term is a result of being multiplied by the same number each time. So what number are they using here? 1 goes to minus 3. Well, they must be multiplying by minus 3, right? 1 times minus 3 is minus 3. Minus 3 times minus 3 is 9. 9 times minus 3 is minus 27. Okay? Now, what's more is, if we look at this in terms of minus 3, the first term is minus 3 to the 0, because any number to the 0 power is 1, which means the second term is minus 3 to the 1. The third term is minus 3 to the 2. So you see, whatever term I want, it's going to be minus 3 raised to that term minus 1. So the 7th term is not going to be minus 3 to the 7th. It's going to be minus 3 to the 6th. Yes, indeed. And minus 3 to the 6th is minus 3 squared 3 times. Your calculator will tell you, too, that that is 9 cubed, or 729. And we do know that all the even ones are positive, so we're good there. Yeah, way to go. Done. All right. The shipping crate for customers of ShipQuick consists of a fee per box and a price per pound for each box. The table below gives the fee and the price per pound for customers shipping boxes of various weights. Weight of box, fee, price per pound. Greg wants ShipQuick to ship one box that weighs 15 pounds. What is the shipping rate for the box? Well, 15 pounds would fall into that category right there. So I'll have a $10 fee plus 15 times 65 cents, because it's 65 cents per pound, it weighs 15 pounds. So I'm going to pull my calculator in for this one. 15 times 0.65 equals $9.75 plus 10 should be $19.75. Answer H. There we go. A computer chip, 0.32 centimeters thick, is made up of layers of silicon. If the top and bottom layers are 0.03 centimeters thick and the inner layers are 0.02 centimeters thick, how many inner layers are there? Really? All right, so the whole thing's 0.32. The top and bottom layers are 0.03. So I have two layers 0.03. So I need to take 0.32 and subtract two layers of 0.03, which is 0.06. So that comes down to 0.26. So minus the top and bottom layers, the intersection is 0.26 centimeters thick. Now each layer is 0.02 centimeters thick, so I need to divide this by 0.02, and that is 13. So answer A, 13. The table below shows the number of cars Jing sold each month last year. What is the median of the data in the table? All right. Median is the middle number in a string of terms, values. So the first thing you're going to want to do is rewrite these in ascending order. So if I do that, I've got 13, 15, 16. I'm going to cross these out as I go. So I have two 19s, 19, 19, chunk, chunk. I have a 22, two 25s, a 26, a 27, a 28, and a 29. Should have 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Good. Now that you have them ranked, we're just going to cross out the last number and the first number. 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 If in doing that, you're left with one number, that's your median. If you're not doing that, you're left with two numbers, then the average is, the median is the average of the remaining two numbers. So either there'll be one number left, that's your median, or two numbers left, it's the average of those two. So what's the average of 22 and 25? Well, 22 and 25 is going to be 47. 47 divided by 2 is 23.5. Okay. Number 11. Students studying motion observed a cart rolling at a constant rate along a straight line. The table below gives the distance d feet the cart was from a reference point at 1 second intervals from t equals 0 seconds to t equals 5 seconds. Which of the following equations represents this relationship between d and t? Alrighty. Well, t is the time, of course. D is the distance traveled in that time. And what we should expect to see, because I said it was constant, a constant rate, yes, is the interval of increase here should be the same. So in other words, we're starting out at 0 seconds, we're at 14. At 1 second, we're at 20, and that's a difference of 6. In 2 seconds, we're at 26. Again, a difference of 6. 26 or 6. 6. 6. That means each second we're moving 6 further along. So D should equal our starting point, which is 14, plus 6 for each second that we travel, plus 6 times t. 14 plus 6t. There it is right there. See, 6t plus 14. There you go. The length of a rectangle with area 54 square centimeters is 9 centimeters. What is the perimeter of the rectangle in centimeters? I'm going to draw myself a rectangle. I know that this length is 9 and the area is 54. Since the area is length times width, I know that this must be 6 because 9 times 6 is 54. So the perimeter will be, that means this is also 6, that's 9, will be 9 and 9, which is 18, plus 6 and 6, which is 12, which is 30. 18 and 12. 13. In the figure below, C is the intersection of AD and BE. If it can be determined, what is the measure of BAC? BAC. They want to know that one right there. Can it be determined? Yeah, of course it can. For one thing, we know that these two angles, where those two lines cross, anytime you have two lines that cross, they form what are called vertical angles. And vertical angles are congruent. So that means this is also 45 degrees. If that's 45, that's 45. What's more is the sum of the interior angles of any triangle is always 180. So that means if I take 180 and subtract 35 and then subtract 45, I should get angle A there. Well, 35 and 45 is 80, so 180 minus 80 is 100. B. Antoine drew the circle graph below, describing his time spent at school in one day. His teacher said that the number of hours listed were correct, but that the central angle measures for the sectors were not correct. What would be the central angle measure for the core subject's sector? All right. My core subject sector is 4. And the total is 4, 1, 3, 7, 8, 9. So that means I have 4 out of 9 hours that represents my core subjects. And I'm going to break that into a circle which has 360 degrees. Remember, that's 360 over 1, really, because we just don't have to write the 1. Which means I can take this 9 and divide it straight into there and leave me with 40. 4 times 40 is 160. That is degrees. Answer H. This month, Cami sold 70 figurines in 2 sizes. The large figurines sold for $12 each, and the small figurines sold for $8 each. The amount of money he received from the sales of the large figurines was equal to the amount of money he received from the sales of the small figurines. How many large figurines did Cami sell this month? Okay, well, we have 2 unknowns, large and small. I'm going to use S and L. And I know that S, the number of small ones, plus L, the number of large ones, S plus L must equal 70. All right. Right there. Furthermore, I know that if the large figures are $12 each, that means the amount I made from selling large ones is 12L, and the amount I make from selling the small ones is 8S, and those two have to be equal, right? The amount of money he received from the sales of large was equal to the small. So 12L must equal 8S. Now they're asking for how many large figurines did Cami sell this month. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this in terms of S. So if S plus L equals 70, that means S equals 70 minus L. Now what I can do, if S equals 70 minus L, I can plug 70 minus L in for this S. So I'm left with one equation that says 12L equals 8 times 70 minus L. Again, I'm just substituting 70 minus L for S there. That leaves me with just L. So if I solve this, I'll know what L equals, which is what they're asking. So 8 and 70 is 560. So I have 12L equals 560 minus 8L. If I bring my 8 over there, It's a negative there, it becomes a positive. I now know that 20L equals 560. So L equals 560 divided by 20, which will be 28. 28. So 28 large figurines. A car accelerated from 88 feet per second to 220 feet per second in exactly 3 seconds. Assuming the acceleration was constant, what was the car's acceleration in feet per second from 85 feet per second to 88 feet per second to 220 feet per second? All right. Well, again, we're assuming the acceleration was constant, so I just know that it went that far in 3 seconds. I want to know how much it went, how far it went 1 second, so let's find the difference there. 220 minus 88 is going to be 100 and let's go 2, 21, 13, 132. Now I just want to divide 132 by 3. 3 goes into 13 4 times, so the remainder of 1. 3 goes into 12 4 times, H, 44. In a plane, the distinct lines A, B, and C, D intersect at A, where A is between C and D. The measure of angle BAC is 47. What is the measure of angle BAD? So A, B, and C, D intersect at A. All right, so let's do this. There's A. There's B. And CD intersects at A with A between C and D. So there's C. There's D. The measure of BAC, that's this one here, is 47 degrees. What is the measure of BAD? So what is the measure of this one right there? Well, measure BAC and BAD together form the straight line CD, and the line is 180 degrees. So 180 minus 47 should give us that angle right there, and that will be 10, 13, and 17 minus 4 is 133. Answer D. All right. In which of the following are 1/2, 5/6, and 5/8 arranged in ascending order? Well, you could do this with your calculator by just converting those to decimals and then comparing them, but I would think it's just as easy to do it just working with the fractions by finding a common denominator. The common denominator of 2, 6, and 8 is 24. So 1/2 is 12 24ths. 5/6 is 20 24ths, and 5/8 is 15 24ths. Multiply that by 12, that by 4, that by 3. So arranging them in order, it looks like 1/2 is the smallest one. 5/8 is the next one, followed by 5/6, because 12, 15, and 20. 12, 15, and 20. So 1/2, 5/8, 5/6. Looks like that is answer F. In scientific notation, 670 million plus 700 million equals what? Well, let's convert these to scientific notation. So this one will be 6.7 times 10 to the, well, our decimal point started there. And to get to 6.7, to move it to there, we had to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 670 million is 6.7 times 10 to the 8. Likewise, 700 million should be 7.0 times 10 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, when you add numbers in notation, you just add the notation part, which will be 6.7 times 13.7. And these guys go along for the ride. So 13.7 times 10 to the 8. But Scientific notation requires us to have only one number to the left of the decimal. So I need to rewrite this not as 13.7, but 1.37. Now, since I moved the decimal place that direction, I have to increase this number. So it went from 10 to the 8 to 10 to the 9. 1.37 times 10 to the 9, B. All right, let's do layer. For trapezoid, ABCD shown below, line AB is parallel to DC. The measures of the interior angles are distinct, and the measure of angle D is x. What is the degree measure angle A in terms of x? Okay, well, this angle A and this angle D, or x there, they have a property. They are called corresponding angles, and they total 180 degrees. And the reason why is that these line AB and line DC are parallel. And if you cross two parallel lines with what's called a transversal, then the angles here and here always total 180. Likewise, angles there and there, they're called corresponding angles, equal 180. That means that 180 is the total. They're asking what is the degree measure of angle A, so that means angle A should equal 180 minus x, which is F. To get a driver's license, an applicant must pass a written test and a driving test. Past records show that 80% of the applicants pass the written test and 60% of those who have passed the written test pass the driving test. Based on these figures, how many applicants in a random group of 1,000 applicants would you expect to get driver's licenses? Well, I have 1,000 applicants, and 80% pass the first stage, which is the written test, so 80% of 1,000 is 800, and 60% of those 800 pass the driving test, so 60% of those 800 would be 480. 10% of 800 is 80, and I need 6 times that. 6 times 80 is 480, so 480. There you go. 22. If a, b, and c are positive integers such that a, b equals x and c, b equals y, then xy equals what? Well, xy would equal x, which is a to the b, times y, which is c to the b, and together then they would be ac to the b. All right, ac to the b, which is h. Now, I might add here that some students, not you, but other people, might think that the answer is AC to the 2b, because you were taught at one time that when we multiply, we have to add exponents. And that is absolutely true. For instance, m squared times m cubed is equal to m to the 5th. We add exponents. So why isn't this AC to the 2b, or b plus b? Well, it's because you only add exponents if your bases are the same. M and M, or X and X, or 2 and 2, or 3 and 3. We do not have the same. A and C are not the same. They could be. We don't really care. We don't know. So what we do know, though, is that A to the B, C to the B is equivalent to AC to the B. And again, if you doubt that, let's give it a try. 3 squared times 2 squared. If this is true, that should be equal to 6 squared, and indeed it is. 9 times 4 is 36. It is not equal to 2 times to the 4th, so 6 to the 4th. So there we go. There you go. So be careful there. You only add exponents if the bases are the same. Which of the following expressions is equivalent to 1/2 y squared, blah, blah, blah? Now, when I first see a problem like this on the ACT, I think, boy, that seems rather complicated for us to solve in a minute. So when I look at it, I realize it's not as complicated as it looks, because we have a plus 2y and a minus 2y, and plus 2y and minus 2y together equals 0, so they are gone. I'm going to further simplify it by taking that 1/2 and multiplying it through there. So that will have me with y squared. 1/2 times 6x is 3x plus 1/2 times 12x is 6x. Now I can add what's in the parentheses. Is 9x, so y squared, 9x. Written more formally, that would be 9xy squared. An artist makes a profit of 500p minus p squared dollars from selling p paintings. What is the fewest number of paintings the artist can sell to make a profit of at least $60,000? It's interesting, the fewest number. Well, what we're saying is that 500p minus p squared equals 60,000. There's my formula right there. My profit. All right, now, this is a quadratic equation. Note the squared term there, which means in order to solve it, I need to set it equal to 0. To do that, I'm going to take the 500p and the minus p squared and move them this direction. Move them over the equal sign. That way, I will have a positive p squared, which I just prefer. It's just me. So that means I'll have 0 left over here, and that will equal a positive p squared. This is a positive 500. That means over here it's a negative 500. And that hasn't changed. It's still positive 60,000. All right, we can always solve a quadratic equation with the quadratic formula, but we don't need to do that here. We can just set up a couple of empty parentheses. I know that the first two things have to be p, otherwise how would we get p squared? Then to find these two numbers, I need two numbers that when added together equal 500, but when multiplied together equal 60,000. And two numbers leap immediately to mind, 200 and 300. They add together to get 500, they multiply together to get 60,000. So what are the signs? Well, this needs to be positive, and that's negative, so these will both be negative. And real quick, does that work? Let's do the FOIL method. P times p is p squared. P times minus 300 is minus 300p. Minus 200p is minus 500p. And minus 200 times minus 300 is indeed positive 60,000. Okay, so this means if 0 equals that, that means p has two answers. It can be 200 and 300. So now it makes sense. That's for the fewest number, which is 200. Answer H. There we go. Last month, Lucy had total expenditures of $900. The pie chart below breaks down these expenditures by category. The category in which Lucy's expenditures were greatest is what percent of her total expenditures to the nearest 1%. All right, her expenditures were greatest for clothing at 254. 254. And let's see here. I don't need to total up those because they told me the total was 900. So I just need to figure out what that is, and I'll use my calculator for that. 254 divided by 900 equals 28.282222. 0.28 is as a percent, 28%, so B. In the figure below, the measure of BAC is x plus 20, so this is x plus 20. The measure of BAD is 90. What is the measure of CAD? Okay, well, CAD, the measure of CAD will be the total measure, which is 90, minus the measure of BAC, which is x plus 20. Remember to put those parentheses in there. That's important, because when you distribute that negative through there, that's a minus 20. So we have 90 minus x minus 20 or 70 minus x. 70 minus x, there it is, G. What is the perimeter in inches of the isosceles right triangle shown below, whose hypotenuse is 8 root squared inches long? All right, I know a lot of things about this triangle because it's a right triangle and hypotenuse is 8 root 2. It's isosceles. That means that side equals that side. That means these have to be 8. There are 3 triangles that everyone should just memorize and have in their arsenal. They are the 45, 45, 90, which are always in the ratio of 1, 1, root 2. That's how I knew if that was 8 root 2, those had to be 8. They are the 30, 60 degree triangle, which is in the ratios of 1, root 3, 2, and they are the triangle that is 3, 4, 5. You should just have those memorized because they crop up again and again and again and again. Here it is. Here's the first one right there. So that is 8, 8, root 2. So what is the perimeter? Well, it's the sum of those 3. 8 and 8 is 16 plus 8 root 2. 16 plus 8 root 2, E. All right, the equation y equals a x squared plus bx plus c is graphed in the standard xy coordinate plane below for real values of a, b, and c. When y equals 0, which of the following best describes the solution for x? All right. When y equals 0, that means this is a quadratic equation, and you're asked for the values of x that make y equal to 0. So in other words, when y equals 0, we're interested in these 2 points right here. Those are the only 2 points on the graph where y is 0. So what are those values? We don't know, but let's see. 2 distinct positive real solutions? No, because that one's negative and that one's positive. 2 distinct negative real solutions? No, because that one's positive and that one's negative. 1 positive real solution and 1 negative real solution. Why, yes, that's true. 1 of those and 1 of those. 2 real solutions that are not distinct? No, they're both distinct, meaning they're different. 2 distinct solutions that are not real? No, they're both real. In other words, they're not imaginary. So it looks like H is the way to go. All right, speaking of complex numbers, what is the product of the complex numbers minus 3i plus 4 and 3i plus 4? All right, minus 3i plus 4 and 3i plus 4. Well, to multiply these, you have to use the FOIL method. So minus 3i times 3i is minus 9i squared. Minus 3i plus times 4 is minus 12i. 4 times 3i is a positive 12i, and 4 times 4 is 16. Well, the minus 12i and the positive 12i cancel out. What's more is I squared, remember that I is equal to the square root of minus 1, so I squared is simply minus 1. So this is minus 9 times minus 1 plus 16. Minus 9 times minus 1 is 9, plus 16 is 25. The radius of the base of the right circular cone shown below is 5 inches, and the height of the cone is 7 inches. Solving which of the following equations gives the measure theta of the angle formed by a slant height of the cone and a radius? Okay, so which of the following equations? All right, so we have a right triangle, and here's my theta, and I know the value. I could figure out the value of the hypotenuse there, but I don't need to know that because I do know the opposite and the adjacent side of angle theta. If you don't know your trigonometry, that's something you'll need to learn. So the tangent is equal to the opposite over the adjacent. So the tangent of theta should be 7 over 5. Tangent of theta equals 7 over 5, which is that one right there, G. 7 opposite over adjacent, G. Sine and cosine all involve the hypotenuse, so I would need to calculate that in order to figure out sine and cosine, but there we go. Tangent, opposite over adjacent, G. To make a 750-piece jigsaw puzzle more challenging, A puzzle company includes 5 extra pieces in the box along with the 750 pieces, and those 5 extra pieces do not fit anywhere in the puzzle. How fiendish. If you buy such a puzzle box, break the seal on the box, and immediately select one piece at random, what is the probability that it will be one of the extra pieces? Well, probability, again, is the number of ways a specific event can happen divided by the number of ways all events can happen. In this case, the specific event is being an extra piece, and there are 5 such pieces. So the probability of you being a specific extra piece is 5, and divided by the total number of possibilities, which are all the pieces in the box, and there are 750 pieces plus 5. So there are 755 pieces in the box. So 5 out of 755, D. What fraction lies exactly halfway between 2/3 and 3/4? Now you could do this with your calculator, but I think that this would probably be much easier done with just working with fractions. So let's do that. 2/3 and 3/4, let's find a common denominator, which would be 12. So 2/3 would be 8/12. 3/4 will be 9/12. So exactly halfway between them is 8.5/12. Okay, that doesn't really work for us. So let's just double everything. Take these up from 12ths to 24ths. So 8/12 is 16/24. 9/12 is 18/24. Now it's painfully obvious that exactly halfway between them is 17/24. Answer K. All right, over here. Here we go. Gianna is converting a 12-foot by 15-foot room in her house to a craft room. Gianna will install the tile herself, but will have CC Installations build and install the cabinets. The scale drawing shown below displays the location of the cabinets in the craft room. 0.25 inch represents 2 feet. Cabinets will be installed along one of the 12-foot walls from floor to ceiling, and 4 cabinets that are each 3 feet tall will be installed in the middle of the room. These are the only cabinets that will be installed, and each of them will be 2 feet wide and 2 feet deep. CC Installations has given Gianna an estimate of $2,150 for building and installing the cabinets. So 33, a 15-foot wall is how many inches long in the scale drawing? Well, 0.25 inch represents 2 feet. So if I have a 15-foot wall, I first want to break that up into 2-foot increments. So let's divide that by 2. So there are 7.5 2-foot increments in 15 feet. And each of those 2 feet increments is represented by 0.25 inches on my scale. So I need to multiply this by 0.25. I will bring in my calculator for that. 7.5 times 0.25 equals 1.875. 1.875. So it should be 1.875. All right. Gianna will install tile on the portion of the floor that will not be covered by cabinets. What is the area in square feet of the portion of the floor that will not be covered by cabinets? Okay. Well, I can ignore this part here that's covered with cabinets. So that means I'm looking at a room here that is 12 by, this is 15 minus those 2 feet by 13. So that's the area of the entire floor. I just have to subtract out the space covered by these cabinets. And you will recall that there are 4 cabinets here, each 2 by 2. So that means each side 2 foot, 2 foot. So that's a 4 by 4 foot square in there, right? So I need to take 12 times 13 and subtract 16. So back to the problem. 12 times 13 is 156. Minus 16, minus 4 times 4, minus 16, which is 140. Answer H. Okay. CC Installations estimate consists of $650 charge for labor plus a fixed charge per cabinet. The labor charge and the charge per cabinet remain the same for any number of cabinets built and installed. CC Installations would give Gianna what estimate if the craft room were to have twice as many cabinets as Gianna is planning to have? Really? Well, how many cabinets does she have? We already know there's 4 cabinets right there, so 4 cabinets. And this is a 12-foot wall, and each cabinet is 2 foot by 2 foot. That means there are 6 more cabinets here. So right now she's installing 10 cabinets. Now, let's see. $2,150 was for 10 cabinets. So $2,150 was for 10 cabinets. If I subtract 650 from that, 2150 minus 650, that comes out to 1,500. I probably should have known that in my head. And if that is for 10 cabinets, that means each cabinet is $150. And that doesn't change according to our problem. So for twice as many cabinets, it should be the $650 plus $150 times 20. So 650 plus 150 times 20 equals 3,650. Answer D, 3650. All right, let's see. What do we got here? 36. Which of the following is the graph of the region 1 is less than x plus y is less than 2 in the standard xy coordinate plane? All right. Well, this means that we have 2 graphs to consider. We have the graph that is 1 is less than x plus y, and we have the graph that says x plus y is less than 2. So I need to graph each of those. Let's start with this one, and we'll just graph by using the intercepts. When x is 0, y is 1. So 0, 1. When y is 0, x is 1. So that graph, it is a less than symbol. It is not equal to, so that would be a dashed line. This graph will graph the same way. When x is 0, y is 2. When x is 0, y is 2. 1, 2. When y is 0, x is 2. This likewise is just a less than sign, no equal. So that will be a dashed line. Now, going back to this says that the x plus y values are greater than 1. So that would be everything above this line. This says the x plus y's are less than 2. That would be less everything below this line. And where those two intersect is that region right there. All right, so those guys are out. They're facing the wrong way. It's this one or this one. This one you can see goes in the negative. This goes from 1 to 2, just like we expect. Answer J. All right, 37. I'm getting hungry. I need something to eat. What is the difference between the mean and the median of the set 3, 8, 10, 15? All right. Well, let's do the mean first, which we add up the values and divide by the number of values. So 3, 8, 10, 15, that is going to be 11, 10, that's 21, 36. So the mean is 36 divided by 4, which is 9. All right. Now the median is the middle value. So I cross off the largest one and the smallest one. And I'm left with either 1 or 2 values, in this case 2. So the median would be the average of those 2, and the average of 8 and 10 is, of course, 9. So what is the difference between the two? 9 minus 9 is 0. Okay, which of the following describes a true relationship between the functions f of x equals x minus 3 squared plus 2? Well, that is this parabola. This is f. And g, 1/2 x plus 1, that is that line right there. That's g. Okay, so is it true that f and g of x, f equals g for exactly 2 values of x? Yes, that is true, because they equal wherever they intersect, and they only intersect in 2 spaces. So that's true. Done. We can move on. But let's just take a quick moment here to see why the others aren't true. F of x equals g of x for exactly 1 value. No, it equals it for 2. F is less than g for all x. That is not true because it's greater than g up there. F is greater than g for all x. That's not true because it's less than g right through there. F is the inverse of g. Well, no, because the inverse of g would also be a straight line, and f is not a straight line. So there we go. Okay, here we go. Trapezoid. Okay, all these, okay. Trapezoid ABCD is graphed in the standard XY coordinate plane below. Done. What is the slope of CD? Well, that's the slope of that line right there, and as you recall, slope is just the rise over the run, or the difference in y's over the difference in x's. So slope, denoted by m, will be 4 minus 1, the difference in y's, divided by 9 minus 12, the difference in x's. 4 minus 1 is 3. 9 minus 12 is minus 3 for a grand total of -1. B. Okay. When ABCD is reflected over the y-axis to A prime, B prime, C, blah, 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 what are the coordinates of D prime? Okay, well, what they're saying here is that we've got the trapezoid, looks pretty much like that. And this point over here, which is 12, comma 1, is going to be translated across the y-axis. So flip, flip. So now what is that point right there? Well, over here it was 12, 1. Here it is going to be minus 12, 1. Minus 12, 1. Minus 12, 1. F. Okay. Which of the following vertical lines cuts ABCD into 2 trapezoids with equal areas? Okay. The area of a trapezoid is equal to 1/2 the height times the sum of the bases, the top and the bottom. Okay. So in our case, if we're just going to cross this with a vertical line, the height is not going to change. That's not going to change. Okay. But what I have to be sure of then is, since then we'll have 2 trapezoids, I need to make sure that the bases for this trapezoid, let's say on the left one, the sum of those is the same as the sum of the bases on the right side. Yes. So these are our choices here. I think I'm going to go this route rather than figure that the difference here is, what, 5? Well, I don't care. I know that it's got to be fairly well along the way, so it can't be 2.5. That'd be way too small. It can't be 3.5, 4.5. Maybe 5.5. This would be 3. No, that would only be 2.5 along. I'm going to go 6.5. Let's see what happens if I do that. If I draw a line right here at 6.5, vertical line. I'm interested in what these are. Well, this is 3 to 6.5. This is 3.5. This is 6 to 9, which is going to be 2.5. Okay. This distance is 2 to 6.5, which is 4.5. This is 6.5 to 12, which is 5.5. Now, if this is right, then those two should equal one another. 3.5 and 4.5 is 8. 2.5 and 5.5 is 8. Voila! That's what we wanted. Answer E, 6.5. All right. Given f equals x minus 1 over x, and g equals 1 over x. What is f of g of 1/2? Okay, I'm going to have to work this from the inside out. So I'll start by taking the 1/2 and plugging it in here into g, and whatever I get for that, I'll then take that and plug it in here into f. So starting from the inside out, what is g of 1/2? Well, g of 1/2 is 1 over 1/2. And when I divide by a fraction, I invert and multiply, so that's 1 times 2, or 2. So g of 1/2 is 2. So now I will take this 2 and plug it into here. So what is f of 2? Well, f of 2 is x, which is 2, minus 1 over 2. 2 minus 1/2 is 3/2, or 1.5. Answer K. All right. A formula to estimate the monthly payment P dollars on a short-term loan is that, where A dollars, blah, R is the interest rate, and Y years length of the loan. When A is multiplied by 2, what is the effect on P? Isn't that interesting? All right. Well, let's see what happens here. If I multiply A by 2, that means my numerator now is going to be 2A RY plus 2A. Right? Right. Okay. And the numerator is not affected by that at all, 12y. So what I can do, this multiplying the 2 with the a's there is the same then as multiplying this whole side by 2. Just distribute the 2 amongst the a's, which is then would be the equivalent of multiplying that side by 2. So if a is multiplied by 2, effectively p then is also multiplied by 2. D. All right. The points E and F lie in the standard xy coordinate plane shown below. Point D lies on EF between E and F such that the length EF is 4 times the length of DE. What are the coordinates of D? Okay, so point D lies here, and the distance from E to D is 1/4 of the total distance. So I'm going to put that about right there. There's my D right there. So what are the coordinates of D? Okay. Well, we can do this by using the, the distance formula. But the distance formula, I think, is rather tedious, and it's based off of right triangles anyway. So let's utilize some right triangles here. Let's draw a right triangle right there that has this length and that length. So from E to F now, I have a nice right triangle. Now, F is at 14, so from 6 to 14, that means the length of this side is 8. And this goes from 4 to 12, that means the length of this side is 8. So the x direction and the y direction are both 8. Well, I recognize that right triangle, 8 and 8. That means this entire length must be 8 root 2. Indeed. That means then that if this distance is 1/4 of that entire distance, then 8 root 2 divided by 4 is going to be 2 root 2. That means we now have a triangle right here whose length right there is 2 root 2. Well, I recognize that triangle also. That must be a 45-degree triangle whose lengths are 2 and 2. So if E started out at 6, 4, I'm going to add 2 to each value. I'm going to go 2 over and 2 up. So I should get 8, 6. Answer G. 45. Given that A times the matrix 2, 6, 1, 4 equals that, for formula number A, what is x plus z? Well, first off, let's do the multiplication here. So this is just scalar multiplication of a matrix. That means I'm just going to take this and multiply it by everything in the matrix. So A times the matrix 2, 6, 1, 4 is equal to the new matrix 2A, 6A, 1A, 4a. And there you go. And they're asking for what is x and z. That's 2a plus 4a. So 2a plus 4a. So x plus z is 6a. But what the heck is 6a? Well, I know what 6a is because we know that this value is 27, which corresponds to 6a, doesn't it? Yes, it does. That means this equals 27. What a nice little problem. 46. A container is 1/8 full of water. After 10 cups of water are added, the container is 3/4 full. What is the volume of the container in cups? I have a container. It's already 1/8 full. I'm going to add 10 cups. Now, after adding 10 cups, it is now 3/4 full. Well, 3/4 is just 6/8. So that means this is now 6/8 full, which means that this distance that was the 10 cups is 5/8. Well, if 10 cups equals 5/8 of the volume, that means each eighth must be 2 cups, right? 5/8, 10 cups, that means each 1/8 is equal to 2 cups. So 1/8 of the volume is 2 cups. That's why we get 10 cups. All right. Well, the total volume then would be 8/8. 8 times 2 is 16. Answer J. All right, here we go, out here. Here we go. Only 10th, 11th, and 12th grade students attend Washington High School. The ratio of 10th graders to the school's total student population is 86 out of 255, and the ratio of 11th graders to the student's total student population is 18 out of 51. If one student is chosen at random from the entire school, which grade is the student most likely to be in? Wow. Well, let's look at what we got here. The 10th graders are 86 out of 255. The 11th graders are 18 out of 51. That's clearly been reduced because we know that there's 255. 5 times 51 is 255. So 5 times 18 is 90. So there are 90 11th graders. So can we figure out how many 12th graders there are? Sure we can, because we know there's a total of 255. And there are 90 plus 86. You know what I'm trying to say? 12th graders, which is 176. I'm sorry, there's 90 plus 86 of 10th and 11th graders. So that means there should be 255 minus 176. 255 minus 176 12th graders. And that would be 15 minus 9, 24. That would be 79. So 10th, 11th, 12th graders. So if I pluck one student at random, it's most likely they'll be amongst the 90 rather than 86, 79, and that represents the 11th graders. Answer B. 4 root 2 plus 2 root 3 equals what? Well, you will recall, probably from grade school somewhere, that if I have two fractions, say a over b plus or minus another fraction c over d, that I can quickly sum those up by doing this. A times b plus or minus b times c all over b times d. And I will incorporate that right here, because this tells me then that the sum of this is going to be 4 times root 3 plus 2 times root 2 plus 2 times root 2 all over root 2 times root 3. Root 2 times root 3. Well, root 2 times root 3 is root 6. So I just need 4 root 3, well, 2 root 2 over root 6. 4 root 3 plus 2 root 3 over root 6. G. 49, here we go. The shaded region in the graph below represents a solution set to which of the following systems of inequalities? All right, well, we have this circle represented here by this right there. We have this represented right there. Now, the shaded area in question is inside the circle and below this line. So inside the circle and below the line. All the points inside this circle will be x minus 1 squared plus y minus 2 squared is less than 9. That represents all the points inside the circle. All the points outside the circle would be greater than 9. And equals 9 would be the actual circle itself. Now you'll note that the circle is a dashed line. That means it is less than 9 and not less than or equal to 9. Good. So that's part of our problem, our solution rather, right there. That represents, now we need to combine that with all the values that are less than this, which means the y values are less than minus x plus 2. And again, that's a dashed line, so it's not less than or equal to, it's just less than. So that should be the shaded area, right? Inside the circle and less than that, they only combine right there. So where is that? Here's less than 9, less than x, yep, A. Answer A, less than 9, less than minus x plus 2. You can find the volume of an irregularly shaped solid object by completely submerging it in water and calculating the volume of water the object displaces. You completely submerge a solid object in a rectangular tank that has a base 40 centimeters by 30 centimeters and is filled with water to a depth of 20 centimeters. The object sinks to the bottom and the water level goes up 0.25 centimeters. What is the volume in cubic centimeters of the object? Well, I have a tank here. And I know that it is 40 by 30. And it's 20 centimeters. We don't care. That the fact that it's 20 centimeters doesn't matter. We're only interested in how much the water rises. So if it rises 0.25 centimeters, that means the volume of the object must be equal to a slice of water from this tank that is 30 by 40 by 0.25. So I just need to multiply all those together. That'll give me the volume of that slice of water, which is equal to the volume of the irregular object. So 40 times 30 is 1200. 1200 times 0.25 or 1/4 is 300. 1200 divided by 4. There we go. Okay. 51. If xy is 5 to 2 and y to z is 3 to 2, what is the ratio of x to z? Okay, well, how can I get x to z from xy and yz? I can get x over z by taking x over y times y over z, because then the y's will cancel out, won't they? Because one's the numerator, one's the denominator. So that gives me x over z, which is what I want. So let's do that now. If x over y is 5 over 2 and y over z is 3 over 2, then that should be 15 over 4. And there's answer E. Which of the following is the solution statement for the inequality shown below? Minus 5 is less than 1 minus 3x, which is less than 10. Okay. All right. I'm going to start by getting rid of that 1 in there, and I can do that by subtracting 1 from everywhere. As long as I do something in one thing, I just do it to all of them, it's still good. So I'll subtract 1 everywhere. So minus 5 minus 1 is minus 6, which is less than. 1 minus 3x minus 1 is just minus 3x. And 10 minus 1 is 9. All right, so I've gotten rid of the 1. looking much better. Now I want to get rid of this minus 3, so I'll do that by dividing everything by minus 3. Now be careful, because when you divide or multiply by a negative, we have to reverse the signs. So starting over here, minus 6 divided by minus 3 is a positive 2, which is now greater than minus 3. X divided by minus 3 is just positive x. And I reverse the sign. 9 divided by minus 3 is minus 3. So there's my answer. 2 is greater than x is greater than minus 3, h. All right, a formula for the surface area A of the rectangular solid shown below is 2LW plus length with height, where L represents, right. By doubling each of the dimensions, the surface area will be multiplied by what factor? Oh, well, let's just look at one of these. Let's look at this one, 2LW. If you double the dimensions of everything, then this becomes 2 times 2L times 2W. So this one term is being multiplied by a factor of 4. And that would be true of all these terms. So essentially I'm multiplying this entire side by 4. So that means I would have to equivalently multiply the area by 4, which is B. Now there's a general truth hidden in here too, is if I have a square, for instance, let's say it is 3 by 3. Its area right now is 9, but if I double the lengths of the sides, it now becomes a 6 by 6, which has an area of 36, which means if I increase the length of the sides by 2, I increase the area by the square of that increase. 2 squared is 4. If I were to triple the length of the sides, by multiplying this by 3, I'm increasing the area by a factor of 3 squared, or 9. Similarly, if I have a cube and I double the length of all the sides, I'm increasing the volume of the cube by the cube of that change, which is 2 cubed, which is 8. So doubling the edges of a cube increases its volume by 8. So area increases by the square of whatever I increase the length by, volume increases by the cube, whatever I increase the length by. Again, just a general truth there. 54. A dog eats 7 cans of food in 3 days. At this rate, how many cans of food does the dog eat in 3 plus D days? So he eats 7 cans of food in 3 days. That means he eats 7/3 cans of food per day. 7 3-day, done. So how many cans of food does he eat in 3 plus D days? Well, I just need to multiply those two. 7/3 times 3 is 7 plus 7D over 3, right? Right. So, yeah, 7/3, 3 plus D days, 7/3, 7 plus 7D over 3. Looks like the answer is going to be okay. And finally, the last page. Okay. Kelly asked 120 students questions about skiing. The results of the poll are shown in the table below. After completing the poll, Kelly wondered how many of the students polled had skied both cross-country and downhill. How many of the students polled indicated that they had skied both cross-country. Okay. All right. Okay, so 65 said that yes, they had done either cross-country or downhill. 28 said they'd done hill. So what we've got to do here, we've got to consider a Venn diagram. This is going to be downhill, that's cross-country. And I know that 28 people said yes to downhill. 45 said yes to cross-country. But the total amount is only 65. So 28 and 45 is 60 and 13, which is 73. So this represents 73 people. So the overlap here must be 73 minus 65, or 8. Yes, and indeed, we know then that 20 people said this, and 37 people said, yeah, but what's important is the 8 is the overlap. So 8 people had done both. E. All right. The square below is divided into 3 rows of equal area. In the top row, the region labeled A has the same area as the region labeled B. Ding, ding. In the middle row, the 3 regions have equal areas. Okay. In the bottom row, the 4 regions have equal areas. What fraction of the square's area is in a region labeled A? Oh. All right. Okay, so we look at this first row. The first row represents 1/3 of the total area of the square. And the A represents 1/2 of the 1/3, or 1/6. Here, the A represents 1/3 of the 1/3, or 1/9. Here, the A represents the 1/4 of this 1/3, or 1/12. So you need to add those together. The common denominator would be 36. So this would be 6 36ths, 4 36ths, and 3 36. 6 and 4 is 10, and 3 is 13. 13 36ths. Okay. 57. The functions y equals sine x and y equals sine x plus a plus b for constants a and b are graphed in the standard xy coordinate plane below. The functions have the same maximum value. One of the following statements about the values of a and b is true. Which statement is it? Okay. Okay, well, they're using trigonometric functions here, but that really has nothing to do with this problem. What's important is this is our starting graph. Okay, that would be that one right there. That's y equals sine x. So what happens to this graph if we add a value inside the parentheses with the x, and if we add a value outside the parentheses? That's what this problem is about, and that's called translating. If I start with a known graph and I make modifications by adding inside the function and outside the function, how does that modify my original graph? So if you want to study something, you'd want to look up translating graphs. So in this case, what does it do? Well, when I add a number inside the function, as they've done here with the a, that will cause my original graph to either move left or right, a distance of a, depending on whether a is positive or negative. Actually works the opposite. You might expect if this is negative, it moves it to the right. If it's positive, it moves it to the left. And what happens with b, if I add a number outside the function here, that only affects y. That's going to cause this original graph to either the whole graph to move up or the whole graph to move down. So b causes me to change it up or down, up or down. So clearly this graph has either moved left, because now my new graph is here, or it's moved right. I can't really tell. So let's look at b. Note that my original graph compared to my new graph, it has not moved up or down at all. It has not moved up or down. Therefore b must be 0. So my answer has to be a. We aren't really sure whether a is less than 0 or greater than 0. It could be either one. You could have moved it this way or that way and gotten the same result. That's what it is. That's when you're dealing with sine, which is periodic. Okay? But one thing's for sure is that the graph did not move up or down, so b must be 0. And that's our only option there. So a, answer A. All right, which of the following number line graphs shows the solution set to the inequality x minus 5 less than minus 1? Okay, so you're thinking, oh, we got an absolute value here. That means x minus 5 is less than minus 1, and x minus 5 is greater than positive 1. But forget all that. That's what you do. If it were real inequality, this is not an inequality because the absolute value means that this side of the equation is always going to be positive. That means this will never be less than minus 1. That means there's no solution to this. Answer K, the empty set. 59. As part of a probability experiment, Elliot is to answer 4 multiple choice questions. For each question, there are 3 possible answers, only one of which is correct. If Elliot randomly and independently answers each question, what is the probability that he will answer the 4 questions correctly? Okay. Well, the probability of getting 1 answer correct, if Elliot's just randomly guessing, is 1 out of 3. So the probability of getting 2 of the questions correct would be 1 out of 3 times 1 out of 3. 1 out of 3 times 1, blah, 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 blah. So 4 answers correct would be 1 out of 3 times 1 out of 3 times 1 out of 3 times 1 out of 3, or 1 out of 3 to the 4th. And that is 1 to the 4th, which is 1, and 3 to the 4th, which is 81. Answer E. All right, the sides of an acute triangle measure 14, 18, and 20 centimeters respectively. Which of the following equations, when solved for theta, gives the measure of the smallest angle of the triangle? And they're giving you 2 bits of information here. This is the law of sines. This is the law of cosines. So if we look at this right here, let's draw this. That'll be 14. That'll be 18. That'll be 20. Now, it also tells me that theta is the smallest angle. So that theta gives it, that means theta is the smallest angle. That means theta must be opposite the smallest side. Smallest angle, opposite the smallest side. So that's all that I know about that triangle. I don't know anything else. I don't know what any of the angle measures are. I know the length of the 3 sides, and I know that theta represents the smallest angle. So that tells you right away that we have to use the law of cosines. The law of sines requires us to know at least one of my angle measures, A, B, or C, and I don't know that. If I knew one of them and the sides, I could figure out the other ones, but I don't. So that's out of there. That's gone. So we're left with this here. And what's important is that you can label these A, B, and C anyway. This is not a right triangle. So it's important that the angle you're looking for, in this case C, is opposite the side C. There you go. And these can be A or B. It doesn't matter. A, B. A, B. It doesn't matter how we make it. It's going to be B, A. It doesn't matter. What's important is that the angle you're taking the cosine of is opposite the side. So there you go. So this formula right there will exactly give us the measure of C, because we know what C squared is. We know what A squared and B squared are, A and B. We don't know C, but we do know because we can calculate it out now. Okay. So which one would that be? Well, that would be J, because here theta C is opposite 14. That's why K is wrong, because here theta is opposite the 20, which is not true, because theta has to be the smallest angle, opposite the smallest side. And none of these are right, because in order to use the law of sines, I need to know at least one of the angles, and I do not know any angle. So there we go. Answer J. Whew.